Hello and welcome to Crash CSS. I'm your instructor Jazib Khan, and today we begin our journey through the earliest foundations of American history. Long before 1492, long before Columbus, Spain, or England even imagined the Americas, the New World was already home to vast, complex, and flourishing civilizations. These societies were not primitive. They possessed advanced technologies, monumental architecture, organized political systems, and deep cultural traditions that evolved independently over thousands of years. In Mesoamerica, the Olmec, from 1200 to 400 BC, are often described as the mother culture because so many later civilizations borrowed ideas, symbols, and practices from them. They carved colossal basalt heads, weighing several tons, built early pyramid-style structures, and established ceremonial centers, clear evidence of a highly organized society in what is now Mexico. After them, the Maya civilization emerged from 2000 BC to 1697 AD, stretching across southeastern Mexico and Central America. The Maya developed the most sophisticated writing system in the Americas, created complex mathematical notations including the concept of zero, and built towering temples aligned with astronomical cycles. Farther south, high in the Andes, the Inca Empire rose by the early 1200s AD. Centered in Cusco, the Inca realm, Tawantinsuyu, eventually spanned modern Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile, and Argentina. With over 10 million subjects, they built road networks, stone cities like Machu Picchu, and masterfully engineered terraced farms. Together, the Olmec, Maya, Inca, and other cultures such as the Aztec, not detailed here, created dynamic, interconnected worlds long before Europeans arrived, setting the stage for a rich and vibrant pre-Columbian America. Across what is now the United States, equally impressive civilizations thrived before 1492. In the fertile Mississippi River Valley and the American Southeast arose the Mississippian culture, from 1000 to 1400 AD, known for constructing massive earthen mounds, sophisticated agricultural systems, and complex social hierarchies. The greatest of their cities, Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, reached a population of over 20,000 around 1200 CE, making it the largest urban center in North America at that time. Its central monument, Monk's Mound, remains the largest prehistoric earthwork in the Americas, a testament to engineering skill and ceremonial importance. Mississippian societies cultivated maize on a large scale, maintained trade networks spanning thousands of miles, and formed powerful chiefdoms. Although many of these centers declined before European arrival, their legacy shaped regional cultures for centuries. Meanwhile, in the American Southwest flourished the Ancestral Puebloans, formerly called Anasazi. Based in the Four Corners region, they built multi-story stone and adobe dwellings, including the iconic Cliff Palace at Mesa Verde. Their settlements included kivas, plazas, and carefully planned road systems linking distant communities. They practiced advanced dry farming techniques, growing corn, beans, and squash despite harsh desert conditions. By 1492, North America was not an empty wilderness, but a continent filled with mound-building societies, expansive trading networks, agricultural villages, and cultural diversity. From the Mississippi Valley to the desert plateaus, these communities developed ways of life adapted perfectly to their landscapes, contributing to a vibrant and varied pre-Columbian world. Nearly 500 years before Columbus, the first known Europeans reached North America, not through Spain or Portugal, but through the daring voyages of the Norse Vikings. Around the year 1000 AD, Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, sailed from Greenland and explored a region he described as Vinland, believed to be areas of modern Newfoundland or Labrador. Norse sagas recount rich forests, wild grapes, and abundant resources, an alluring new land for a seafaring people. Modern archaeological excavations at Lance aux Meadows in Newfoundland uncovered unmistakable remains of Norse buildings and artifacts, carbon dated to between 1000 and 1021 AD. These discoveries confirmed that Viking explorers briefly established outposts in the New World. They likely used these settlements as temporary bases for timber extraction, hunting, and brief interaction with indigenous peoples, whom the sagas refer to as Skraelings. Despite their achievements, the Norse presence was short-lived. Conflicts with local populations, long supply lines, and harsh conditions made permanent colonization impossible. Their outposts gradually faded, and knowledge of Vinland disappeared from European memory. By the late 1400s, when Spain and Portugal looked westward, Europeans were unaware that their ancestors had already crossed the Atlantic. Thus, the Norse voyages stand as an early but largely forgotten chapter in transatlantic exploration, one that would only be rediscovered centuries later through archaeology and renewed interest in Viking history. As 1492 approached, Europe was undergoing dramatic transformation. The Renaissance had revived interest in classical learning, scientific inquiry, and technological innovation. Advances in cartography, shipbuilding, astronomy, and navigation made long-distance sea voyages increasingly feasible. Yet Europe also faced serious economic challenges, particularly access to the rich goods of Asia. When the Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople in 1453, they effectively blocked many of the overland Silk Road routes that connected Europe to the luxury markets of China, India, and the Middle East. Spices, silk, and precious goods became harder and more expensive to obtain. As a result, European powers sought alternative sea routes to Asia. At the same time, strong centralized monarchies were emerging. In the Iberian Peninsula, Spain had just completed the Reconquista, driving the Moors from Granada in 1492. The unification of Castile and Aragon strengthened Spanish finances, ambitions, and appetite for exploration. Portugal, meanwhile, had spent decades exploring the African coastline, gradually pushing farther south, refining maps, and building maritime expertise. Papal decrees in the mid-1400s granted Spain and Portugal exclusive rights to lands discovered beyond Europe, further incentivizing exploration. Amid this competitive environment, Christopher Columbus proposed a bold plan, reaching Asia by sailing west across the Atlantic, bypassing the African route dominated by Portugal. Thus, Europe in 1492 was a continent energized by intellectual revival, motivated by economic necessity, driven by religious and political ambitions, and equipped with the tools to launch a new age of global exploration. All these forces converged to make Columbus's voyage possible. In August 1492, Christopher Columbus set sail under the Spanish crown with 3 ships, the Niña, Pinta, and Santa Maria, believing he could reach Asia by crossing the Atlantic. After more than 2 months of uncertainty at sea, a lookout aboard the Pinta spotted land at 2 a.m. on October 12, 1492. Columbus named the first island San Salvador, located in the Bahamas. There he encountered the Taino people. He observed their appearance, tattoos, and ornaments, and was especially intrigued by the gold jewelry some wore. Using gestures and simple communication, he attempted to ask where gold could be found. Mistakenly assuming he had reached islands near Asia, Columbus referred to the indigenous inhabitants as Indians. Columbus continued exploring the Caribbean, reaching Cuba on October 28th and later Hispaniola. On Christmas Day, the Santa Maria ran aground, compelling Columbus to establish a small fort named La Navidad, where he left 39 men. When he returned to Spain in early 1493, he carried news of fertile lands, unfamiliar peoples, and new opportunities. Although he still believed he had reached Asia, his voyage confirmed the existence of unknown lands west of Europe. This discovery triggered an irreversible shift. Spain immediately prepared further expeditions, initiating waves of colonization, conquest, and cultural exchange. Columbus's voyages did not merely reveal new land, they opened the floodgates to European expansion, permanently altering the course of world history. Columbus's discoveries sparked intense imperial competition between Spain and Portugal. To avoid conflict, the two powers signed the Treaty of Tordesillas, 1494, drawing a line 2,100 kilometers west of Cape Verde. Lands west of the line, including most of the Americas, were reserved for Spain, while lands east, including Africa and Asia, were assigned to Portugal. This arrangement later enabled Portugal to claim Brazil, discovered by Pedro Alvarez Cabral in 1500. Spain quickly focused on building a vast empire in the Caribbean and the American mainland. Its conquistadors, driven by a mix of greed, ambition, and religious zeal, launched expeditions that reshaped world history. Hernán Cortés marched into Mexico in 1519, forming alliances with indigenous enemies of the Aztecs, and by 1521 had destroyed Tenochtitlan, toppling the Aztec Empire. In South America, Francisco Pizarro captured the Inca Emperor Atahualpa in the 1530s, and by 1533 Spain had seized control of the Inca Empire. Spain imposed systems like the encomienda, forcing indigenous labor into mining and agriculture. Catholic missionaries spread Christianity, and Spanish language, law, and social structures took root across the region. Portugal, meanwhile, strengthened its trade routes around Africa and began establishing plantations in Brazil. By 1600, Spain and Portugal dominated the Americas. Gold and silver from mines in Mexico and Peru flowed into Europe, dramatically altering the global economy. The first century of colonization reshaped native societies, expanded European power, and laid the foundations of a new Atlantic world. The meeting of the Old World and New World after 1492 triggered one of the most transformative events in human history, the Columbian Exchange. This massive interchange of plants, animals, people, and microbes reshaped societies on both sides of the Atlantic. The most devastating element was disease. Europeans unknowingly carried smallpox, measles, influenza, and other illnesses to the Americas. Because native populations had no immunity, mortality rates skyrocketed, some estimates reaching 80 to 90%. Entire communities collapsed, altering political structures, demography, and cultural life. In return, Europeans carried New World crops back across the Atlantic: maize, potatoes, tomatoes, cacao, peanuts, and peppers. These calorie-rich foods sparked population booms in Europe and revolutionized diets from Asia to Africa. Potatoes transformed life in Ireland, while maize and cassava spread widely across Africa and Asia. Europeans introduced Old World animals to the Americas: horses, pigs, sheep, cattle, and goats, forever changing indigenous lifestyles. Horses in particular reshaped the cultures of many North American tribes, enabling new forms of mobility, hunting, and warfare. Agricultural plants like wheat, rice, and sugarcane reshaped the New World economy. Sugar plantations and livestock ranching became major industries. Meanwhile, environmental landscapes changed dramatically as animals grazed and new crops spread. The Columbian Exchange bridged two worlds separated for more than 10,000 years, initiating biological, cultural, and economic transformations that shaped the modern world. Neither the Americas nor Europe would ever be the same. Although Spain and Portugal dominated the early stages of a New World exploration, England too sought opportunities beyond Europe. The first English-sponsored explorer was John Cabot, an Italian navigator who sailed under King Henry VII. In 1497, Cabot reached the coast of Newfoundland or Cape Breton and claimed it for England. However, England remained preoccupied with domestic and European affairs for much of the 1500s, slowing further colonization. This changed under Queen Elizabeth I, whose reign encouraged maritime expansion and competition with Spain. English privateers like Sir Francis Drake looted Spanish treasure fleets, adding wealth and prestige to England while intensifying rivalries. Ambitions for colonies grew as English merchants, sailors, and nobles looked toward North America. In 1584, Sir Walter Raleigh received a royal patent granting him permission to establish settlements. His expeditions, led by explorers Amadas and Barlow, surveyed the Carolina coast and identified Roanoke Island as a promising location. These early missions combined exploration, trade, privateering, and attempts at settlement. Although they faced challenges, they generated valuable geographic knowledge and increased English involvement in the Atlantic world. By the late 1500s, England's desire for colonies grew stronger, influenced by economic interests, competition with Spain, and dreams of new markets and resources. These early attempts, despite their failures, laid the groundwork for more organized and enduring colonization in the early 1600s, setting the stage for the British rise in North America. The most dramatic early English attempt at settlement was the Roanoke colony. Under Sir Walter Raleigh's charter, England launched expeditions in 1585 and 1587 to establish a foothold in the New World. The chosen site was Roanoke Island, located off the coast of present-day North Carolina, in a region Raleigh named Virginia, in honor of Elizabeth I. In 1587, a group of about 150 settlers arrived under the leadership of Governor John White. This group included men, women, and children, marking England's first serious attempt at a permanent community. That same year, White's granddaughter, Virginia Dare, became the first English child born in the Americas. Shortly after her birth, White sailed back to England to secure supplies and reinforcements. Unfortunately, England soon became embroiled in war with Spain, delaying his return. Not until 1590, 3 years later, was White able to make the journey back to Roanoke. Upon arrival, he found the settlement deserted. The fort was empty, houses dismantled, and the colonists gone without a trace. The only clue was a single word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. White believed this might indicate the colonists had moved to Croatoan Island, but storms prevented further search. The fate of the settlers remains one of the greatest mysteries in American history. Despite its failure, Roanoke provided England with essential lessons about logistics, native relations, site selection, and colonial planning, knowledge that would soon guide the successful establishment of Jamestown. England's first permanent foothold in North America began with the creation of the Virginia Company of London. In April 1606, King James I granted the company a charter to establish English colonies between modern North Carolina and New York. The venture had commercial, strategic, and religious motives: to profit from New World resources, challenge Spanish dominance, search for a northwest passage to Asia, and spread Christianity. In December 1606, 3 ships, the Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, sailed from England, carrying 105 colonists. After a long voyage, they reached the Chesapeake Bay in April 1607 and travelled up a river they named the James River, eventually choosing a swampy peninsula to establish their settlement, Jamestown, named in honour of the king. The early years were brutal. Colonists faced disease from contaminated water, famine, harsh winters, and tense relations with the Powhatan Confederacy. Many died during the notorious starving time. Yet despite these hardships, Jamestown endured. Leadership from figures like Captain John Smith and the later introduction of tobacco cultivation helped stabilize the colony economically and socially. Jamestown's survival was a turning point. It proved England could plant lasting settlements in the New World and open the door for future colonies such as Plymouth, Massachusetts Bay, and Maryland. Over the next decades, English settlements expanded, gradually shifting the balance of power in North America. By establishing Jamestown, England laid the foundations of British supremacy on the continent, an empire whose influence would shape the future of the United States and the modern world. Thank you for being a part of this journey through the earliest foundations of American history. I hope this lesson helped you understand how the world before 1607 shaped everything that followed in the making of the United States. If you found this video useful for your CSS preparation, do like it, share it with your fellow aspirants, and subscribe to Crash CSS for more structured, exam-focused content. Don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss our upcoming lessons. Until then, keep studying with purpose and stay consistent.